the things you know you can do. Now, we don't see this clubhouse divider with a stage on top and an audience down below. No, no, no. Instead, we look at this as the world's largest breakfast table. It's full of motivation, education, inspiration, and even a friendly competition with the positive intention of pushing your momentum in the right direction. Now, listen, if you ever miss a segment, you can go download the Who You Know Show podcast, subscribe, and listen anytime. So head on over to whoyouknow.show, grab the link, and subscribe. Man, y'all are in for it today. You're in for it today. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. Well, welcome to the Who You Know Show by Clear Path Wealth Strategies, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your wealth, health, business, career, relationships, and life. I'm your host, Trevor Houston, and on this episode, we sit down with Catherine Nikkel, a best-selling author and ghostwriter who's penned 15 books and thousands of blogs and emails for CEOs, entrepreneurs, and influencers. Catherine shares her inspiring journey from a career in social work to become a highly sought-after ghostwriter. So, Catherine, it's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for being with us. It's the Who You Know Show. Welcome.
Yeah, it's a privilege. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So can you start off? I want to kick it off with your background and what led you to transition from social work to ghostwriting. You know, we do a lot with career transition folks. And what caused you to do that?
You know, I always start off by saying no one's in social work for the money. And I decided after 15 years of a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that space that I was tired of living paycheck to 2 days before paycheck. And I was tired of, red tape and politics. And I was always working with nonprofits. So, when you're working with a demographic of people involved in gang violence, human trafficking, addictions, mental health, and 1 minute you have funding, next minute you don't, they're not really the demographic that you want to say, sorry, guys, can't help you anymore because of. And, it gets old. It wears on you for sure. So I never left because I didn't love the work that I did. But I always started writing on the side. People would always be like, Catherine, can you finesse this for me? Whether it was a report or an email. And I thought, I could probably make a good side hustle out of this, because we're all looking for side hustles when you're, struggling financially. And I just decided one day I had a really great friend who was crushing it in insurance. I thought,
really?
that's my key. I'm going to leave social work. I'm going to write on the side, and I'm going to become this, brilliant insurance agent. Excuse me. And the universe was like, oh no, girl, that is not what's going to happen for you. I left social work.
Hold on, let's time out there. I want to stop there, okay? Because I'm also in financial service, insurance and financial services. I do investments and things like that. Anyway, and I know what it's like when you get into that business and you're like, you know what I'm saying? Tell me your experience. You got there, you're like, why'd you say, what was it about it? You said, this ain't for me.
Yeah, to be honest, I left social work. They put you up in this hotel for 2 weeks to help you get your license. Then they put you in a week of sales school. And I thought, this is great. I'm going to get paid to do this. I love learning. I'm so excited. I'm chasing the money. And 7 days later, I ended up paralyzed from the waist down.
What?
And yeah, I know. That's the reaction I get a lot.
What happened?
Apparently I had a disc in my back that was out and I didn't know. And it broke and lodged behind my spinal cord.
What?
And yeah, so I've always said that was the universe saying,
Okay, so tell me you got a book on this this story.
My story's still being written. Yeah. But it was crazy. I mean, I underwent spinal surgery. I had to learn to walk again. I spent 6 weeks in a spine unit. And that was in 2015. So I decided, I'm going to follow this through. I'm going to go back and get my insurance license, but this is not what I'm meant to do. This, whether you believe in the universe or whatever the case is, I just thought, no, this is saying I shouldn't be doing this.
For all of the listeners right now, if you got that gut feeling that it ain't for you, okay, if you've ever thought about insurance and you're getting that gut feeling that it's not for you, guess what? It's not. If there's any doubt, it ain't for you. Trust me on that. It's hard enough, if you're all in, right? And if you're half in, half out, and that ain't gonna work. We always tell them,
No.
burn the ship. Okay, burn the
Yeah.
ship. You got to be all in. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I got my license and I was doing okay, but I was not happy. This was not the career change that I was looking for.
Mm,
And I just started putting my experience online, mostly Facebook, because, I'm a Gen Xer. I guess we still use Facebook. And I had someone reach out to me and say, I really love the way you write. Do you write for other people? And it was the scariest yes ever, because I'd never actually been someone else when I was writing. And that was the kickoff of a pretty amazing ghostwriting career.
okay, so you started off just kind of writing on Facebook, and then okay, tell me, what was that first thing? What was that first project that you did?
So he is a CEO, a current client of mine still after, oh my gosh, 9 years. And he was looking for someone to blog and
Mm,
just really dive into, he's in sort of the social media coaching space, if you will, and just
okay.
didn't have the capacity to write, but had a ton of other content out there.
Mm,
And we just started blogging for him a lot. And so that was the first project. It was the first retainer I ever sent out because I thought I'm not doing piecework. I'd done the piecework thing in writing. My other beginning projects were writing Amazon descriptions
mm,
because I thought, if you're going to pay me 2 cents a word at that time, if I can, knock out X amount, I can make X amount. And I was really living in that space of as long as I match what my social work career salary was, which was trash, but if I could match it, I was going to be okay.
right.
And
Okay.
mhm.
So let me ask you this question. I'm really curious because, obviously a lot of changes with technology and AI and, ChatGPT and all these, you know, chatbots and things. So how is that impacting your business, and what's going on with you? How is that impacting you? Do you see this as something that is an advantage for you, or do you see this as like this is hurting you? Like what's going on there? Talk to me.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't felt any type of impact. I just get
Okay.
asked a lot that same question. And my response is always, I think AI is a great tool, but it's not the answer. I mean, let's even just look at your energy for a moment. No robot, no AI could match that. That personality, that charisma, excitement, humor, what have you. I don't care how much you train this robot to be you.
Mm.
I don't believe that that's ever going to come through that the way someone would really want it to.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You can't copy me. You know what I'm saying? You can't copy me. I'm original. But no.
Yes, you are.
I'm different, okay? Why fit in when you were born to stand out, right? That's all it is. That's all it is. I'm different. But hey, no, that makes a lot of sense. And so do you see with AI and technology, like, do you leverage that? Do you use it? Do you like get a format, get something going? Does it help with inspiration? And then you go in and put the human touch in there, the human creativity that the AI just isn't really quite there yet to, really put it in? Or because I know a lot of
Yeah.
people are using these tools to write books. I mean, we got books flying out like it ain't like they're going out of style. Everybody's an author now. So
Mhm.
tell me, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are people are going to run into a lot of issues with intellectual property because
Mm,
what we're failing to realize is where AI is getting its information is already published information.
mm.
So, how people are using it, I think they're going to run into a lot of trouble. We're already seeing a pretty downhill trend in the book world when it came to that. You have platforms like Ingram Spark or Amazon KDP that are doing a lot different type of crawling. So there's a lot of books that are more and more being rejected because of plagiarism.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard that, some publishers like are they tell you up front, this cannot be written by AI. We won't accept it.
Yeah,
Right.
so we're seeing more of that, and people didn't know how to react at first. In the publishing space or what have you, we didn't really know what was happening, or we knew it was coming, but we didn't know people were going to be, spitting out memoirs that they didn't actually write, which is kind of weird.
Well, yeah, and okay, so let's talk about that. Right. Me personally, I look at it like this. Like So if I had you write a book for me, you're a ghostwriter. AI is
Mhm.
the ghostwriter too. It's just a different form of ghostwriter. I mean, it's not a human ghostwriter, but it's like I'm not actually writing the book, right?
No,
Or
but the robot's not actually interviewing you either.
yeah. Well, I mean, it all depends on the prompt. So,
Fair.
right, because if I get in there and I go into the prompt and I say, like, let's say I tell my story, okay, and
Mhm.
I actually write out my stories, but I write it the way I write, which is not a professional writer, right? I'm not you. Like, you're a professional writer. I'm not. But let's say I do, and I write my, third grade level story, and I write it out the way I write, and then I have ChatGPT enhance it and make it better, right?
Mhm.
That's not necessarily taking it from off the internet because it's my story, right? So it's
Fair.
my story. It's just enhancing it. Same thing you would if I went in and we talked and we had interviews and you would enhance it, but it's still not the human touch. I almost look at it like you would potentially use AI to kind of get things started, and
Mhm.
then use a ghostwriter like yourself to enhance it, to polish it up, to really take it to that next level, to just trying to get the format going. But I don't know.
Absolutely.
This isn't what I do. So that's why I'm asking you. I'm
Yeah.
asking you what I guess people are doing now that these tools have been um introduced. You know what I mean?
Right. It is. It's absolutely a great tool. I don't ever take away from that for sure. We had to buy in.
Mm,
Rejecting it wasn't going to serve anybody.
sure.
But I do think it's a great tool. And you're right. You could spend that time writing out your story, but now you're putting way too much credit into a robot that's going to catch your tonality, the
Mm,
emotion behind it. So it's very, I don't know, black and white, where people are gray. We might think we make black and white decisions, and that's great, but we still live in this really gray space of how we feel, how we react to things, our perspective, our emotions, and all of that
yep.
encompasses us. And AI tools just not, it's not there yet. It might be there one day.
Yeah.
But what we find too is a lot of people that use AI for bigger projects spend more time editing the AI piece to make it
Mm,
sound like them. So I do think it's a great tool because a blank page is intimidating, even as someone who's, written books, worked with a lot of authors. It is absolutely intimidating.
yeah.
So use it as a tool, but please don't use it as the answer.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. Like I think what you said right there is absolutely spot on. It helps you to get the ideation, it helps you to get that format going. It helps you to get it started, and but then you need a human, it's not like
Hmm.
you said, it's not quite there yet. And even if you go in, and I've done this, um I've had the AI um copy my brand voice, right? From
Hmm.
things that I have written that is me, right? From things that um interviews, transcriptions, right? So like this podcast, we could transcribe it, throw it in Chat GPT, and it could analyze my the way I speak, the way my energy and blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
Still not perfect, right?
Right.
Still not perfect, but it does capture my brand voice, shoot, pretty good. It's not
Hmm.
perfect though. Like you could have those tools, right? You could say, hey, write the national anthem in the way of Shakespeare, right? And all of a sudden
Hmm.
it's gonna do that. Or write it the way Donald Trump speaks. It is like it's gonna do it like it's gonna be
Right.
like this. Anyway, it's gonna do this. Okay. Anyway, that was a joke. But no, okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what you do, your process, and how you help your clients. How do you help your clients use their stories to make an impact?
So everyone has a story. Everyone actually has millions of stories made up in their life. And the biggest thing is, what I want to just go back to for 1 second too is that a lot of people that come to ghostwriters isn't because they don't want to write, it's that they don't have the time to write. So if
Mm,
we think about the way you have to train, like you said, you're training your brand voice. I just wanted to put that note on there. Is it's not necessarily that took time and that took effort, and sometimes people just don't have that capacity.
Mm,
But having said that, I love working with nonfiction authors. There were so many parallels. There are so many parallels from social work to this, just in terms of advocating for people and putting their story in a light that is going to matter. And, the primary thing, the first question from any consult that I do is, what do you want this book to do?
mm,
Like, what is the goal? Is the goal just because it's cathartic to you and you want to read your story, you want to share it with your friends and family? Or I work with a lot of cause authors, people that have a bigger cause that they want to impact, whether it be domestic violence or suicide prevention or, oh gosh, trauma. I tend to
mm.
attract people with really deep stories just based on my background. So really we're just taking that main North Star story and looking at who that ideal person is. And the answer is often, I wanted to write the book I wish I had read. I wanted to write the
Mm.
book that I couldn't find. So it's really just stripping back those layers and putting it out there to, something that's relatable, because someone out there needs your story.
Amen to that. Well, I've got personally, and I had to put it on hold, and not to be like a procrastinator or anything like that. I have actually written 2 books. They just haven't been published yet, and I started to get into the published process. But then there was another project. I do that. I start juggling, and the next thing you know, I got a new flashy, shiny toy. But no, there was another project that is absolutely taking priority, that I feel, because of AI and some of the things that are coming on. I feel, with this other project, I have a golden opportunity, and I've got to get it out soon. Um,
Hmm.
I've got to get it out as soon as possible. I'm creating an online course to help insurance and financial professionals understand how to create compliance friendly content. Typically, that's a real challenge for them to even get online and talk about what they do and promote themselves and market themselves because of
For
compliance.
sure.
And so, anyway, I figured that out, and I see that as being like that. I got to get out like ASAP. And so I'm working on that. I had to put the books on hold, essentially, because I know that once you, like, just because something's finished, no, that's just the first start. You got to go market it. You got to go on a podcast blitz, and you got to do, like, there's so much more that goes into selling it, right?
Absolutely.
Can you speak to
Hmm.
that? Do you just do the ghostwriting? Do you help people through publishing? Do you help people sell the book? What all? Tell me a little bit more about what you do.
For sure. So, whether I've ghostwritten or whether I've worked with, I do a lot of consulting and book coaching, just helping people get there. When we're done, I have a team of people that I can refer out to if you just want someone to take it all over for you, or we have a do it with you type model where, you know, just that initial, you're right, because just because you've written it means nothing.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I shouldn't say that. Writing a book is an incredible thing, and congratulations on both your books, whether they're
Oh, thank
published or
you.
not yet. But yeah, your work has just begun. So
Hmm.
we'll take people through, I typically do a 90-minute strategy of where do you want this book to be, because we're tying back into that original vision. Because some people, want it in a psychotherapist office, or they want it in a hospital waiting room, or they want it at their favorite bookstore on the shelf. Like, there's so many variables. So it's really nailing the strategy of where you want to go next. And if you're
Mm.
ready to put in the work, if you're ready to legit hit the pavement, because people still do that, um, you can really make something happen. But your work has absolutely just begun.
Yeah, 100%. Well, for me, one book is really, mm, it's more of a lead magnet
Hmm.
type of a deal. The other one is my legacy book, the one
That's
that if I
awesome.
die tomorrow, I want that one out. So I think I have to do this course first. I got to finish that, which I'm halfway through it. And then I've got going to record it in September, and it should be launched in December. So um, after that, I got to hit the ground running selling that, right? And then I think
Yeah.
once things calm down a little bit and I start getting some things going on that side, it'll allow me a little bit more time flexibility. Um, but I think I want to go with the legacy book first, actually, because um, again, if I die tomorrow, I got to get that one out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's the way I look at it. Like
I
that's
do.
just
And
that's yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say I lost my mom in May. And although
Oh,
she didn't have a book, so I'm feeling, I'm not just hearing what you're saying in terms of if you die tomorrow, you want that out. And,
mm.
there's always something that, I don't know who said it, and I wish I could quote and credit, but it's that your story could unlock someone else's prison. And, the fact that
Ooh.
you have the key to do that, please don't wait.
You know what's so funny that you said that? I mean, hold on, that's a mic drop. Hold on, I'm gonna give you a mic drop. Okay, that's a mic drop. Uh, your story could unlock someone's prison, right? Can I steal that? By the way, because
You
let me,
could.
because the name of the book is Chains to Freedom. Okay,
Okay.
and because I had a pretty rough. I had some trauma. You were talking about trauma. I had some trauma. I had a rough childhood growing up. I was in and out of jail as a juvenile. Made a lot of mistakes. And so you talk about prison. I wasn't in prison, but juvenile, making a lot of stupid mistakes, and was able to transform my life and not become a statistic. So for those that are out there that battled with addiction, maybe you've made some mistakes in your life. If you're not where you want to be in life, there are some steps, and that's what this book is all about. And so you said your story can unlock someone's prison. That's pretty good. I'm gonna steal that and put it in the book.
It's all yours.
Thanks, appreciate that. See that? I love it. I love it. All right. Well, tell me a little bit about what you do to help inspire people to get their story out, that may feel a little bit apprehensive about the process, because it can be overwhelming, right?
It
If you
is
think,
overwhelming.
yeah, it is overwhelming, absolutely. So what do you do to help people with that? I mean, you just say, hey, look, I'm gonna take all that off your plate for you. But I mean, tell me what you do. What advice do you give people to help just get them started, take that first step?
Yeah, for sure. Talking about it. I always offer free consults, always have, always will. It's always been something that's mattered to me. And, we just talk through it, jam out 30, 45 minutes, tell me who you are, why it matters, who can your story impact. And the more
Mm,
we talk about it, especially with someone who, isn't biased, we're not emotionally connected to you, because people around you, everybody has probably heard, oh my gosh, you should write a book. And I think everyone should, but we don't always know the reason why we're doing it. So, without being kind of cliche or corny about like what's your why, because I think that's so overused and very surface.
mm,
Um, but just really stripping that back, and who do you want to impact? And that's what I said. Like you're really deciding, like, is writing this book a hobby for you? Is it a business for you? Is it a lead
mm,
gen? Because we're seeing so much of that. But you're inviting people into your world. So who do you want to invite in? And once people start really nailing who that person is and why that is, that belief just starts to naturally build. And whether they
mm,
want to write it themselves and they just want someone kind of, over the shoulder. Like when I work with my book clients in terms of coaching, like I'm in there. Like I'm in there like swimwear. I'm on your manuscript. I'm giving you feedback, whether it be critiquing. I'm very honest. I always tell people I'll be your biggest cheerleader, but I'm also going to challenge you.
mm,
Um, and I think that matters. People need to, if you're looking at working with a ghostwriter or book coach or what have you, interview them. We shouldn't be interviewing you. Interview us and make sure that we're the person that's going to do your story justice. Because otherwise, we're just helping you put words on a page. And there's great people out there that are okay making a living doing that. And I'm just not. If I hear your story and I don't think I'm the right person to write it, I'll also tell you that.
mm.
Because the whole goal is to make an impact. And if we're just, like you said, even in the insurance financial space, if you're half in and half out, you're really out. You're not
Mm,
really in at all.
that's so
And
true.
I think the same should be said about, ghostwriting, book coaching, and all of those things.
So, uh, can you tell me maybe a story of somebody that you were consulting with, and you're like, no, I'm not really the best fit for you? And was it because they just didn't really have a good story, or was it something else? Like, can you give me an example of somebody you're like, nah, pass?
Yeah. I wasn't entirely sure if the story was true.
Oh,
And it started feeling very nonfiction fiction. I felt there was a lot of
oh,
embellished things
snap.
in there. Because one of the, greatest assets of a ghostwriter is research.
Mm,
Especially when we're writing about topics that we're not super well versed in. I need to research the topic. I need to research the person. And I try to, go into a consult with a pretty good idea of who somebody is, at least on what they show out there. And there was just timelines, and he was telling the story, they just didn't really add up. And I just felt that I just wasn't going to be the right person. And it was very embellished. And, in fairness, I think we became part of this generation that like rags to riches or test to triumph or mess to message became the thing.
mm,
And it's also okay to, I look at, I was pregnant at 15. I came from a middle class household. Like I didn't fit that demographic, that statistic. But
mm,
it didn't mean my challenges looked different for sure because I had resources, I had access to resources. But having said that, that's not who I am. So I didn't need to start like defining the struggle with all the things I need to do. And I think people get so caught in the struggle where people are far more interested in how you overcame it and
mm,
feeling like my story is not good enough. So I just felt
mm.
in that particular consult call that we were just going to pull every traumatic thing off the shelf and throw it in there. And like I said, I mean, it didn't feel true, and
That's
we
really
need that
good.
book.
Okay, so let me ask you this. This is for me. This
Mm.
is live coaching on the spot. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay. So the book that I've written, uh Chains to Freedom. Okay. And I talk about my story in the beginning. Uh, and I'm really trying to like go deep into all the mess. Like I want
Mhm.
people to know what it was really like,
Mhm.
and tell those stories. And then I go into from there, I then go into the transformation. And so basically the storyline of this book literally goes from like it's almost by age, right? And the
Mhm.
reason why I did it this way, I put a post out there, okay? And the post was like literally you may have seen something like this on LinkedIn before it became a trend. Um, it says like when I was 8, dot 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 dot, like this happened. When
Mhm.
I was 9, dot dot dot. When I was 10, blah 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 blah, all the way down like your life, like. And so when I went down and I went through that exercise, I was like, holy crap, there's actually so much stuff that happened between age 8 and age 16. There was a lot of mess. It was
Mhm.
chaos. And and so anyway, so through the book I'm going through that, and then from 16 is really where I got my second chance at life. And I start going through the steps that it took for me to transform my life from there on, and the lessons that I learned along the way. And there's a blueprint in there, and that blueprint, there's 12 steps, but that those 12 steps may or may not, um, like for me, it appeared at different stages of my life. I didn't recognize that I was going through a process, but I was. Right. And so I
Mhm.
feel like, people don't necessarily need to um, self-discover that stuff. If they could understand those lessons up front, right, then
For
they could
sure.
actually get that transformation a lot quicker. But
Mhm.
my question to you, that's a long setup, but my question to you is how much should I be really diving into the mess, and how much should I really spend on the transformation?
Yeah, so nonfiction is such a beautiful world because there really is no right or wrong answer. But what I always encourage and what I would encourage you is, look at your main purpose as your North Star. And
Mm,
when we look at, the North Star, that's our primary story idea. Where then we look at the universe, what's with me in the universe today? We look at the sky and there's millions of stars out there, but they don't all lead to the north. So if we think of all those stars as all the millions of stories that we're made up of, that's
mm,
amazing. But if they don't lead to the north, then they don't need to be in that particular book. because I
Hmm.
believe everyone has at least 3 books in them. Statistically, that's what they say. Um, so, having said that, your mess, if you will, your chaos matters because it's letting people know who you are, where you come from, the perspective that you're in your lens. And your lens is going to be very different or very relatable.
Mm.
So, I think for sure, I don't think, I know for sure the mess matters, but what is your end goal? Is your end goal to share solely the mess and you want people to feel connected to you and relatable and all of those things? Or
Mm-mm.
is the primary goal for people to, be able to go through that transformation? So there's definitely a
Transformation.
healthy balance. And, the fact that you're taking sort of what you learned and putting that through, a blueprint or framework or what have you. I mean, that's key too. You're not just, here's the thing is that I when I did an article with Forbes a couple years ago, and it was all about sharing your story authentically.
Mm.
And the whole idea, my belief, is that if we're sharing a story, we're writing for empathy, we're not writing for sympathy. So how do you want someone to react when they hear your story? Do you want them to say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you," or do you want them to say, "Wow, you came from some stuff
Yep.
and look at you now." So there's a big difference, right, when you're sharing your story, and I think that that's really key when you're looking at your end goal.
That's exactly right. So when I put, like, again, originally I put a post out there of the age and and this happened,
Mhm,
this happened, this happened, this happened, and then right, and then you start to see, okay, you see a lot of chaos, you see a lot of trauma, and then you start to see a transformation, and people are like, "Whoa, I never ever thought," because they see me online and they see everything I got going on now, right? And
mhm,
like, people are blown away when I tell them, I was like, I was a felon at 13 years old, right?
mhm.
What? Like, huh? Like, yeah, I was crazy. I was thug life, okay? And how did I break free of all of that stuff? You know what I'm saying? And so it does shock people. They're like, wow. And the comments that I was getting back when I would share that story, people were like, "Oh my gosh, like, I never knew, and um this could help so many people. It's helping me, blah blah blah." I got so many messages. It was incredible. So I was like, okay, that to me was permission,
Mhm.
right? It was permission for me um get to put this book out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it wasn't permission because you needed to give yourself permission. It was affirming though, I'm sure.
Yes, yes, yes. Affirmation. There you go. There you go. And you know what? It was permission for other people to be
Yes.
open. That's for
Mhm,
sure. That it gave
mhm.
them like, wow, you know what I mean? He's sharing this story, like, I'm relating to that. I had a similar story. There's a lot of people, you know how much trauma's out there? You should know.
Yeah.
You were working it. There's so much trauma out there. Everybody got some trauma for
Yeah.
your baby mama, you know what I'm saying? And and no, but everybody got some trauma. Okay? Most people do.
Yeah, and
And
there's no scale to trauma.
yeah.
Someone always feels that their trauma is not enough because they know somebody who no, trauma is trauma, period.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it too, I'll tell you, like, what happens during your early years and when you're a teenager, stuff like that. That's like one of some of the most impressionable time in your life
Mhm.
where something happens and it like sets you up for a lot.
Yeah,
It can definitely set you
it
up for
can.
a lot of stuff. And so I know a lot of people growing up that didn't make it, that I was hanging out with. They didn't make it. And so it's sad, and so
Mhm.
that for me, you were talking about the why behind it. I have a lot of different whys. There's a blueprint here, and I think that if I can help the youth at that age, man, what a
Yeah.
game changer. What a game
Mhm.
changer, right? To help them understand that just because it's like this doesn't mean that it has to be like this. You have a choice. You have
Mhm.
say so, right? Now, I was truly blessed and grateful that I was removed. The court system removed me from my environment and put me in a different environment. Right. And that actually is one of the steps, is change your environment. But anyway, we don't need to go into all of that. This is about you. This isn't about me today. Okay. So can you tell me, because you've ghostwritten quite a few books, some best-selling books and everything. So what's one of the
Yeah,
most projects that you're the most proud of, that's been the
for
most successful?
For sure. So I guess too, no matter how you gauge success, but I was referred to a woman who was a widow. Her husband was a first responder who took his life to suicide,
Mm,
and she wanted to share her story for the main purpose of helping other, families or friends or looking for, know what signs to look for. Um, so I was referred to someone I used to work with in social work. So, referrals are always great business. But having said that, we spent a lot of time, and we, we finished her book. She actually referred me to two other widows that she met through support groups who also wrote books. And of those three women, one of the women, her book is now handed out to all police in her region, um, for the families. And it's just her story of what she went through and what she, wished she had paid attention to or looked for. And you're always going to have that blame, and there is really no blame in that space. But she really wanted people to really understand some of the things that should be alarming. So that book I'm really proud of, just because it's, it allows me to kind of bridge between missing my social work roots
mm,
and working in a space that's making a difference. And one of the other women, her book actually went on to affect policy change in her region.
mm,
Officers used to have to take mental health leave if they were feeling depressed, suicidal ideations, what have you. It's now changed it to, it can be identified as sick leave versus mental health leave. So people don't actually need to know why you're on leave. Um,
mm.
and um, that was a big change. And even though it's in just a small region right now, I know she's out there advocating the hell out of it, that continue to grow, because a lot of people don't take leave because of that. They don't
Mm.
want that stigma attached to it. So that was a really powerful
Yeah,
change. So
you don't want people knowing, I mean, that, and that's the issue too. I got to tell you, so I have a lot of suicide that runs in my family. No one's been successful, thank God, but they attempt a lot. I mean, so that's part of the trauma in my book, right? Got to see that a
mhm,
lot. Anyway, and the silence is the real killer,
yeah,
right? Like things like you just said, I don't want to take off because people are gonna know, right?
hmm
And I don't want people to know what I'm going through, and they're holding it in, and they're, it's that silence and being isolated like that, right? The enemy wants to attack you when you're alone, right? So that's a tough one. So I'm glad you were able to help with that story to kind of get that out there. It's something that people just like, they don't want to talk about. I remember I had a really, really good friend commit suicide, and I didn't even know for years later. Okay, because the family wanted to keep it a secret.
yeah,
They
hmm
didn't want to shame and all this and that. And I found out years later when his wife became a client of mine, and she told me what really happened, and I was like, oh, I was devastated. I was like, oh my
hmm
gosh. I knew there was something. I knew.
yeah,
I was actually the one that found him. I didn't. I get
wow,
didn't. I went. So I got a call. Okay, I was off work, and I got a call, and they're like, "Hey, have you seen Kenny? Have you seen Kenny? Have you seen Kenny?" No, haven't seen him, haven't heard from him. And they were really worried because this isn't like him. He's not answering. He was supposed to be here today, blah, 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 right? They were worried.
hmm
So I'm off work. So I said, well, I'll go swing by his house, his apartment. And anyway, I swung by. And when I got there, the door had been pushed in, and, like the door knob was not there, like it had been pushed in, right? So I
Right.
knew, like, as soon as I got there, I just knew. And sure enough, police were in there. And I just broke down crying. Like, I just knew, like, they didn't have to say anything, or,
Hmm.
but I didn't know what caused it. I didn't get to actually see him in the apartment. The police came out, and I just broke down. Um and then I got, hearing later, it's this issue, it's that issue. It was, some things, and they try to make it seem like it was natural causes type of deal. That's what I was being told, right?
Right.
But anyway, years later, when his wife became a client, I found out that he committed suicide. And so, anyways, guys, for those that are listening right now, silence is the real killer. Find someone to talk to. If you're going through things, if things are rough, build a community, right? You need someone that when you're quiet, you know who your real friends are by the people that are reaching out saying, "Hey, what's going on, man? I haven't heard from you in a while. What's happening? What's you know, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? When you're
Yes.
being quiet, you know. Also be aware of that, guys, too, is if you have someone that is quiet, reach out to them. Hey, just checking in on you. How's things going? You know what I mean? Like,
And that's the
um,
thing. We all have an extra few minutes in a day.
yeah,
We don't
absolutely.
need to we don't need to have a marathon conversation or get together.
Mm,
At the end of the day, it's just checking in. And just to kind of piggyback off what you said too, there's tons of anonymous hotlines out there as well,
mm,
with professionals, not just randos on the other end of the call, but people that can just hear you out. And I
mm.
just thank you for mentioning that, because it is really important that we put it out there that it's okay to talk about. In fact, it's important to talk about.
Yeah, it's definitely okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think everybody, right? Like, at some point in your life, you've had, like, the walls crashing in around you, and
Hmm.
you're at rock bottom. Like, we've all been there.
We're human.
And we're all human. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it could be for different circumstances. Some could be
Hmm.
more drastic than others, but it doesn't matter. When you feel the walls crashing in, it's real to you. Whatever's happening is happening to you, and you feel it, and it's devastating. And, like, you have to you gotta have a community. You gotta have someone to talk to when things like that are happening. Otherwise, you can feel all alone, and you feel like this may be an option. And anyways, so I appreciate you bringing that up and helping that person share their story, get it out there, because I know that can help someone,
Yeah.
right? That's a legacy
Hmm.
book, is what that one is. That's a legacy book.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, okay. Tell me about some more projects that you're excited about. Any new books coming out or courses in the pipeline? Anything that you want to make sure to share with the audience and let them know about?
Um, Gosh, as far as my own stuff, I kind of end up like you, putting stuff on the back burner to work on projects for other people. But yeah, having said that, right now, just really focusing on helping more authors, become published authors. And so that's the main real focus. If we look at sort of Q3 and Q4 for me, it's just helping people because, Trevor, if we look at the stats, like it's scary. I mean, I'm in Toronto, Canada, but we don't have stats in Canada like we do, but they're just crazy. But if we look in the US, like 200 million people want to write a book every year,
Mm,
and 3% do. And of that 3%, 1% published.
mm.
So, my main goal is, even if I can shift that 1%, half a percent, then I'm making a difference. And, you
Dang, I'm a statistic. I got two books written, but they're not published. You telling me I'm a one percenter
know,
statistic?
you could be.
Yeah. Look, this is real, and I do feel like it almost has become like a standard too, if you're in the space that I am with, like, coaching and all that kind of stuff. You've got to have a book, and it helps you. Let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk about
Mhm.
some of the advantages of having a book, regardless of just, like, again, making some money. Okay. Because if you sell a bunch of books, maybe you make some money. But besides that, what are some other advantages of having a book?
It's great credibility. I mean, just to be
Mm,
able to say you're a published author is huge in the world of, especially depending on the type of clients that you're, looking to work with. That having a
mm.
published book is a big deal. I think it's a big deal, period.
Yeah.
But so it's huge. Lead gen is huge.
Mm.
Um,
So,
because you're giving people an opportunity to connect with you through, we're seeing a lot of more business life hybrid books, kind of similar to what you were talking about in terms of like, here was my mess and here's my transformation. But you're giving people an opportunity to get to know you. We're giving you the what and the why. And you want people to reach out to you for the how.
mm,
Um, so I think that, that's another huge advantage, especially for entrepreneurs and, business owners. It's a really important space to be in.
absolutely. So yeah, you got credibility, authority,
Hmm.
can help you if maybe you're not an entrepreneur or business owner, but you're in corporate America. You're an employee at a
Yeah,
company, maybe career advancement, right? It helps
absolutely.
people to just look at you from a different lens and to see your value, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I th-
Or a
You
thought
know, and a
leader in a space.
thought
Yeah. A
leader,
lot
yeah,
of,
thought leader,
yeah,
100%.
yeah, tons of
Speaking,
advantages.
right, gets you on stages,
It sure does.
right?
It
I've had
definitely
a
does.
couple times that literally, like there was a podcast, and they were like, "Oh, uh, we only interview published authors," and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, appreciate you." You know what I mean? I'm like, I've written 2 books, but they're
Yeah.
not published yet, right? So, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
They're door openers.
door openers, right?
Hmm.
And that's where I say, even in corporate America, so it's going to open doors of opportunity. You may be at one company, but all of a sudden somebody reads your book or sees it or whatever, and they recruit you. They're like, "Oh, we got to get Trevor because he's pop, 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 pop," right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Advancement.
Hmm.
So it's an investment in yourself, right?
Absolutely.
How can the audience connect with you personally? How can they get plugged into what you do? And is there a place where they can see maybe um, examples of your work or anything like that? Can they see any of that stuff, or where do they connect with you?
Well, examples of work is a little bit tricky because I always work in an NDA space.
Mm,
Having said that, I always have testimonials on my website. So if people read between certain lines,
mm,
but my website is typically the best place to, learn a little bit about me, what I do, what my company does. And, if we're just kind of hanging out and people are nosy and want to know about what's
mm.
going on in my world, still that Facebook user
That
and Instagram.
that's a good question to have because you're ghost written, right? You're ghostwriting.
Hmm.
The NDA, obviously people don't want to know. People don't want everybody to know their book's ghost written, right?
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, you don't get a whole lot of credit, right?
No.
And so do you work out? I'm curious. Do you work out deals where, hey, if I take this thing to New York Times best-selling, bop, 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 right? And this book just absolutely freaking crushes it. Do you get any kind of slice in the back, or
No.
do you just charge a fee up front?
Just up front.
Oh, just up
And
front.
then, yeah.
Have you had any that have just smashed it and you're like, dang?
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, but all it meant was that story was out there to more people. And to be honest, that's what's always mattered more to
You
me than
probably get more
anything.
referrals, I bet, from that person.
Ab- absolutely. And also seeing, I've had a number of authors too that I work with that credit me in their book. Don't
Mm,
call me a ghostwriter, but they'll credit me for whatever. And it's just, it's something that just still feels like such a privilege because they
mm,
absolutely do not need to do that. But
mm,
in terms of people kind of getting a feel of, my writing and things like that, I blog a lot. So there's a general feel of, just how I write. I'm a very informal writer, if you will, a lot more narrative, which is why I love nonfiction so much. Um, and I'm also always happy to provide people with, you know, after a consult call, throwing, a page or two at you in terms of what I took away from it and what I can do for people. Um, so that's always an option as well.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So where do they connect with
Mhm.
you again? What's the best way to reach you?
My website would be the best, catherinenickel.com.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Mhm.
Well, Catherine, I really appreciate you being on the show today. I hope you get more stories out there. Okay. Get people across the finish line like me who are just so close. Okay. You just need to get
Yeah,
me
I'm gonna
across
have to
that
nudge
finish
you
line.
a little bit.
Just a little
Yeah.
nudge. No, I've got, I I just have to I got to get this course done. Once that's finished, the legacy book's coming next. Okay. It's already written. So I'm like halfway there, you know.
Yeah.
Would you say that
Mhm.
that's the case? Would you say writing it's half and then the rest
Uh,
is selling
n
it? Or how,
no,
what?
I would say writing is the whole picture and getting
Mm,
it done because, when you move into the next phase of your book, you're now in a marketing space.
okay.
You're
You're
not
like,
in
that's a
an
whole different, that's a whole
yeah.
different episode. Okay. For a different day, marketing, selling,
Mhm.
funnels,
Yeah. No,
advertisements.
writing a book needs to be celebrated, period. And no, your
Okay.
job doesn't end there, but you're just stepping into a new role after that.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, Catherine,
Mm,
again, thank you so much for being on the show. Guys, that's the
thank you.
show. It's all about who you know. Bye.